Okay, I think we'll get ready to start. It's almost 5 past. Thanks for coming along to the lecture today. This one is on JavaScript servers and JSON. And there'll be a little bit of JavaScript at the core for everything we do from now forward. A little bit more on JavaScript servers, which are pretty exciting, and a little bit on JSON, just to set the setting. Please feel free to pop questions into the chat and I'll get to them in block usually. So let's have a look at the overview. We're in week 4, but we're in section 2, which is really focusing on interacting with content using JavaScript. And you'll see that from the current assignment. And much of it is focused on, playing with content, playing with styles, playing with structure, and doing stuff with JavaScript. That would be interesting. So today's class, of course, as I said, will be JavaScript, JavaScript servers, and JSON. I changed the title to include the JavaScript servers piece there because that's what's really there, and I'd left it out in the original lecture schedule, but I'll update that schedule as well. And next week we'll be looking at more JavaScript. We're looking at jQuery and Ajax, which is really nice stuff to work with. And then we'll be looking at developing web content using models and JavaScript frameworks a little bit later in the semester. And that will take us up to the inter-semester break. Okay, for now, let's have a look at the objectives today. Okay, so we're going to look at JSON in JavaScript applications, both client-side and server-side, and we'll see Node.js usage for the server-side example. Very simple, short Node.js example. We'll also be looking at how the web works, how it all hangs together, and this is really crucial that you get this, that you understand how the web, how it all works and hangs together by looking at very simple client-server interactions. And we look at JSON and JSON processing, and that's one of the main goals. But the first thing we're going to do is we're going to review some client-server communication in a web or internet environment. That means we look at 2 software services, a client service and a server service. They communicate over TCP/IP. That's the Transport Control Protocol / Internet Protocol, using HTTP, the Hypertext Transport. So when you go to a web browser, and you have a browser here, and you'll have a URL. Okay, so URL is a uniform resource locator, and this URL needs to get translated. This is essentially an address of something, some document or some resource somewhere, universal resource locator. And we need to be able to get from this, this browser here that I'm using, Safari Technology Preview in this case, is a client, and it needs to talk to the Moodle server at Maynooth University and then send a message to it to give me this particular page. So what we're interested in doing is how does this all hang together? How does it work? Well, what happens is that the browser wraps up your request here in a HTTP protocol message that it sends to this server after it finds it and locates it using TCP/IP. So it converts this URL into an IP address, and then it manages then to send a message to the server, says, give me the document here, and the server goes, okay, you can have the document, I'll find it and give it back to you. That document is written in HTML usually, and it sends that document with a header back to the client, and the client is then able to display all the versions. That's it at its simplest. And we're going to see how to do that and how fundamentally how basic servers work in this lecture. So you should have covered, or you will do at some point, the underlying network and operating system concepts in other CS modules, networking module or system module, where you understand the stack associated with networking and TCP. I don't do that here, but it's at the core of what we use really in a web environment. So the web clients, as I said already, like a browser, they establish this network connection with server located at some specific IP address. That's the Internet Protocol address, using some predefined ports in order to access the resources that are, if you want to say, on or located on the server. Data then are exchanged as text using this protocol called HTTP protocol, Hypertext Transport Protocol, and the server's job is to find the resource quickly and serve it to the client and then disconnect. Okay? slightly out of sync. I can see that there's a bit of a delay. I thought I had fixed that, but sorry, folks. So usually the servers are in a state of readiness, waiting for the next request, servicing it, waiting, etc. And modern web browsers are capable of much more complex cycles, but the operation is fundamental. Let me pause for a second there. Let me see if I can make this a little bit better for you, okay? I'm sorry, I can't seem to change the change it to while running live, unfortunately. I'll have another quick check. Not allowing me to make those changes at all while live, unfortunately. One more. Okay, I'm sorry. It's not allowing me to change this over time. I'm not sure what's happening. There's no other apps running. I can't be sure what's happening. I'll try it again and see how this goes. So sorry about this. Maybe I should start it and try it again. Let's try. Maybe it will. I'm going to shut down for a minute and restart.